Challenge Cup, although we do have a Super League game to catch up from round 4, and of course we'll pick up some picks from across the rest of the league, but we're going to start Thursday night 7:35 p.m, so no build up on Sky for quarter-final 1, Huddersfield versus Catalan. This is an interesting one because it's two sides that have scratched their way into some sort of form here, and who do you think? How do you see this one going, and who do you think will win?
I think this actually could be a surprisingly entertaining game. I think with Catalan, the way they've certainly been playing, they were playing last week. Huddersfield coming a bit back into it. Simon Wolford is in the country now, so that's going to be a boon for them.
Yeah, he'll have managed to have run a few training sessions before this one in person rather than by Skype, hopefully.
Do you think they carry him round on a laptop and just like one of the foreman's there just holding him up like?
I imagine that there was an episode of Modern Family where Phil was somewhere else in the country and they put him on like a little on an iPad on a move around on like what looks like it was like a robot basically, but
I was going further back,
and he was moving himself around.
Yeah, or friends at the wedding when they're holding Rachel up on holding Phoebe up on the phone.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's what I could imagine was going on. He was kind of on a robot, kind of turning around, and if he'd like hit a puddle or something, he'd have just fallen over flat on his robot face. But yeah, in terms of the game though, I'm like you, kind of cautiously optimistic for an exciting one here. What I'm hoping for is two teams who play with an intensity that they want to keep their form going, rather than two teams who hold back and think about the league being more important, because both teams should be able to negotiate the middle eights if they end up in there.
And this could really turn their season, couldn't it, into a disaster round to something quite memorable. Yeah,
and I'm really struggling to tip one way or the other. So I'm going to go with home advantage and go with Huddersfield, but purely off the back of that home advantage and a slightly longer turnaround into the game of an extra day and not having to travel as far.
Yeah, I mean
that's the only justification I've got though. I think it'll be close. One try in it.
Yeah, I've gone for Huddersfield just on the back of having Wolford around, and that'll be giving a fairly fresh air to it, I think. So I think they'll be feeling quite confident, and that'll come on into the game, I think.
Okay, Friday night, same time, 7:35 on Sky. This one played over in Fev. Apparently, ticket sales aren't going great.
Well, they have to play at least one game around there.
Well, contractual obligation, of course.
They should just rename it the Challenge Cup Stadium, shouldn't they?
The LD Nutrition Cup or something next year maybe is what we're going to get, and every game is going to be played there. That's why we're going to spice up the Challenge Cup and try and have some sold out attendances. It's every game is going to be played at Featherstone. But how do you see the game going? Because this is a really interesting one with the Leeds injury crisis and Lee smarting after a game where they performed really well but couldn't quite finish things off, but they should have a pretty confident squad.
And especially given that one of Lee's strengths is their middle unit, it's going to be quite a battle, I think, to start with. And I think that Leeds have got to be prepared for them to come at them. I think they will. I think Leeds will have enough to be able to do them eventually. I think they've just got that little bit more class overall in certainly in the back division. It depends very much who's fit, but they have got that little extra edge. So I think they will win, but I don't think it will be by a huge amount. I think again it will be quite a competitive game, but I can see it. If Lee are thinking about it, they may try and bring it down and make it a bit more of a scrap.
Well, they played against each other. Was it about 3 years ago in a Challenge Cup game at a similar stage, and it was quite a feisty encounter. And in the end, Leeds just had enough to show some class out of it. But with their injuries they've got this year, I'm doubtful of that. I'm actually going to tip Lee in this one. I think the fact that it's not at Headingley...
Well, Lee will have played at Fev more than Leeds have.
Yeah, well, having said that, Leeds will be bringing in players like Ormondroyd and Lily and people like that who've had a good run out at Fev this year, I'm sure. But... yeah, I just fancy Lee. I fancied him last week and they narrowly fell short, but I don't think there was, a huge amount in it. And if Lee can maintain the discipline, which they seem to be able to do a lot better under Kieran Patil than under Dukes and Rowley, I'm confident that they can snatch a surprise victory here. So I'm going to go with Lee to win this one. For the sake of the cup, I kind of think if Leeds win through, it's guaranteed a bit more of a box office semi-final. But there's excitement there if Lee go through too. So I'm going to go with Lee progressing. Okay, Saturday. This is probably the big one, and I was reminded during the week that I've also already got plans for Saturday. So when I was thinking about going to buy tickets, that I realised, hold on a minute, I'm not actually available.
To be fair, you have been away for 2 solid weekends.
Oh yeah, no, my plans aren't with Emma. They're with all my friends from school. So hopefully, me and Cass will be able to find somewhere to settle down and watch this during our boozy day with the boys. But one of the lads just got engaged at the weekend as well, so I'm sure we'll have a few beers for him as well. So I'm not sure that the rugby will be top of the agenda, but it will be front of my mind. 2:30 kickoff on the BBC to watch Warrington versus Wigan. Absolute stellar match-up. It was a repeat of what happened this stage last year, and I fancied the game to go a similar way and Wigan to snatch a narrow victory in an exciting end-to-end match-up. That's what I'm going for. Sam Tompkins with another drop goal to win Wire in the cup. That's my prediction. What's yours?
I'm going for Wire coming out, reading their poetry and dancing around and doing all sorts, and I think they'll come out and I think the class they've shown across the back line as much as anything, but equally in their edges that I think has really worked for them. And I think they've got a fair bit of go forward as well. I think they'll do quite well in this. And I think they'll just overcome you on
that. Okay, and then the final quarter-final on Sunday, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on the BBC is St Helens versus Hull FC. Now, Hull are going through a bit of an injury crisis themselves. We've heard a lot about that, and Saints are going through the exact opposite. Really, they've not got many problems in selection other than who to fill in on the bench. Really, there's just Walmsley still that they're really missing. I can only see this being a St Helens victory. I'm afraid Hull FC fans out there, from my sort of Wigan bias, I'd like to be surprised, and from the romantic story of Hull marching on towards potentially a third in the row cup final, that would be an interesting story. But I think this Saints team have got too much, haven't they? And I'm going to go Saints with a convincing margin in this one. I think it's going to probably be in my tipping, which is not to be great all the time, this will be the one with the widest winning margin, I feel.
Yeah, I'll back you this. I'm looking forward to sitting down and watching this one on a Sunday afternoon with some fruity ciders, but obviously not too many, and then enjoying this. So
just make sure you stay hydrated as well.
Yeah, you got to match yourself 1 for 1 if it's warm. That's a good lesson to all you kids out there. Always make sure you're thinking about your hydration as well as your alcohol intake. And I think Saints are just going to have too much for FC and the patched up FC and this, but you can't write them off too much because their cup record is fast becoming something. So you can't fully be confident, but I think Saints are going to have too much.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a Super League game catching up from round 4 on Friday night, 8 p.m. kickoff. Hull Kingston Rovers versus Castleford. I think that if we went off 1 week form, this would be a tough game to pick, or you'd be looking at Hull KR certainly. But I think I've taken a bit of a longer term view of this game and seen what I've seen from the teams in terms of what they've been able to pick from, and the general trajectory of things. I still think Cass, even with their halfback woes, I expect Cass to be inconsistent in their playmaking, with young Jake Truman being the main playmaker, but I don't expect them to be bad every game, and I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I do think Cass will win this one away.
Yeah, I mean, much as I'd love to be able to tip KR, I just think Cass have got too much, and they've got too much muscle memory of victory and the various things they've gone through over the last 3 or 4 years. I think they've just got that extra bit of class, and they're probably a rank above at the moment. So unless we get a number of players come back from injury, that could change it, but I think that Cass will probably do it.
Fair enough. into the championship, there's only a couple of championship games to pick from, and the game of the week is a rerun of one of the games from the Summer Bash that were picked out. It's Swinton versus Rochdale. Now, it's picked out because of the proximity to the two teams in the table, the fact that geographically they're relatively close to each other too, so there's a bit of a rivalry aspect there. For me, I've got to stick with Swinton. They'll have some Wigan input. Liam Paisley's going really top work in the second row for them, and I just think, although Rochdale will be smarting after getting a bit of a thumping last week, I just fancy Swinton. I think that they're in a bit of decent form. They've not been able to hold on in a couple of games leading up to this game, but they've been competitive recently, and so that's why I'm going Swinton.
Yeah, I've gone Swinton as well. Same sort of thing. I think the addition of the Wigan players, I think Rochdale aren't in a great place overall at the moment. I think there's lots of questions off the field, as much as anything, similar to Swinton in many regards, but I think Swinton's kind of look like they've got a bit more of a plan to get out of it, which I don't necessarily feel with Rochdale. So I think it's going to have more of a hangover on the squad than it will in terms of Swinton. So I think Swinton will do well for that one.
In terms of moving into League One, it's two of the teams on 14 points that we've picked out here, really. It's Oldham versus Doncaster. Do you have any feelings on which way this one's going to go, Tim? Because I'm going to ask you for a prediction.
Yeah, I think Doncaster will have enough for this. I think their backs are very pacey. They've got a fair competition for selection as well amongst the players, even with not having all the Hull FC players on dual reg that they were kind of banking on and planning for. I still think they're probably a little bit better than Oldham down at the Vestacare.
I'm going to go with Oldham in this one. I think Doncaster have stuttered a bit in terms of their form of late, and Oldham, I'm going to go with the Lancashire side of the Pennines on this one, and tip on. The only Brit picking interest in this shortened round of the NRL is Rabbitohs versus Sharks, which is Friday 10:55 a.m, and that is on Sky, so we can all get a good watch of that one. Okay, that is all of next week's games previewed and predicted. Let's now move on to the wrap up of the show with a quiz. It's quiz time, Tim, and because I was busy boozing it up in Blackpool and getting all the free pies and all of that malarkey, I've left it down to you to stir something up for me this week, so I'm hoping that I'm going to perform admirably, but I'm not confident. So what have you got for me
this week? We're going to be talking about the last 3 years Challenge Cup quarterfinals, obviously with the Challenge Cup quarterfinals come out this week.
Okay.
Yeah, how are you feeling on this one, just as a subject?
I'm feeling distracted by my tablet, so I'm going to turn that off and put it to one side. I'm feeling a little bit tired, but I'm ready to go on some Challenge Cup quizzing. Okay,
so how many championship sides were involved in the quarterfinals last year? 2017.
Quarterfinals last year. Just clearing my throat there for a bit of dramatic pause. I'd be. Who did we play? None.
Wrong. It was one. Featherstone. So, was that more or less than the year before?
It was less than the year before.
More. The year before, in 2016, there were no championship sides involved in the finals.
Oh.
Okay, question 3. So you're 0 from 2 so far. So you kind of need this penalty to score. So, which team scored the most points in last year's Challenge Cup quarterfinals?
Castleford.
Incorrect again. It was Leeds beating Featherstone, who obviously were our championship side, 58-0.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I don't care now. I can't get half marks.
Oh, no, you've got 6 questions, so you can still pull this back, but you can't miss now. So it's full pressure. So question 4: in the last 3 years, so that's 2017, 16, 15,